Sometimes Nathan and I can come off a little more jerkish. We understand that, and so we try
Micah comes off more as a jerk. I'm slightly less jerky.
I don't know. It depends on who you ask.
Well, that's true.
That's the way the enemy works, because the enemy's a jerk. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. And you turn it for good. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. If it's going to live in the next generation, it's got to live in us first. It's got to be here that they see it. I want the presence of God. Discussed here by Jesus. And I want you to see this. In chapter 17 of Exodus, it says, "Then all of the congregation of the sons of Israel journeyed from the stages of the wilderness of sin." I don't want to be in the wilderness of sin. I don't know about you. That just sounds bad. But that was the name of the...
Hi there. First, I want to say thank you for listening to this and listening to my story. And I'm just going to start off with some basic information here, and then I'm going to read the article about Pastor Nathan's son and what he's been accused of. And then I'm going to get into my story with Pastor Nathan and what I know of him. So for those of you that do not know, his son, Pastor Nathan's son, that is, Jonathan, was arrested for having pictures and videos of children, toddlers, being assaulted. It's so horrendous, I almost don't even want to say it. But this kind of stuff needs to be talked about. And what his dad did to me is very disturbing. And it doesn't compare to those children and what those children have undergone. But it is something that I think is very important. And the purpose of this video is to talk about it. And it's to get truth out. And it's to have a conversation. Because I tried to get this information out in 2017 to Pastor Nathan's colleagues and to the head of Life Church, for whom he works for, and nothing happened. So I think now is the perfect time to bring it back up again. So, like I said, I'm going to bring up the article and then get into my story. And there is someone else that was there with me that I believe is a victim in this as well. But I'm not going to name that person's name. You're going to be able to gather who that person was to me at the time of the incident. But yeah, also I just want to stress that the purpose of this video isn't to get Pastor Nathan arrested. It's not to do anything like that, but it is definitely to shed light, share truth, and to open a conversation about him and his son. I also want to note that in this photo, it just happens to be the photo that I chose at the beginning here. But the photo on the right is of Pastor Nathan, and the photo on the left is a picture of Lieutenant Governor Micah Beckwith, and you'll discover why he's even in this photo and why this is important to mention. And then you'll see a photo of Jonathan, the one who's been arrested, Jonathan Paternal, in the article. So let's get into it. So I'm going to point out the article that I read personally, and I'm going to just take away a few key points here. I will link it below if you would like to read it. It is very telling, but it was published October 24th, 2025. All right, so it speaks of the son of Pastor Nathan Paternal, a longtime mentor and close ally of Lieutenant Governor Micah Beckwith. You'll realize he's pretty significant and close to Pastor Nathan. So, the son of Nathan Paternal has been arrested on 7 felony counts related to child sex crimes, according to law enforcement and court orders. Jonathan Wesley Paternal, 24 of Pendleton, was arrested Thursday following an investigation by the Hamilton County Metro Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. Investigators said that they received a cyber tip from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, indicating that Paternal had uploaded child sex abuse material to Snapchat. Paternal is the son of Nathan Paternal, the lead pastor for All Life Church campuses, the one I was referencing earlier that I had an encounter with, who hired Beckwith years ago to lead the church's Noblesville campus, where Beckwith continues to serve as pastor while holding elected office. The elder Paternal also regularly attends special events held at Life Church's Noblesville campus, where Beckwith leads the congregation and could be seen during a screening of a conservative Christian documentary on Title IX. Nathan also co-hosts, this is interesting, the conservative Christian podcast Jesus, Sex, and Politics with Beckwith. The two have long described their work as an intersection of faith and governance, often using the podcast to discuss religion's role in public policy and elections. So yeah, the two of them are really close, and I'll show you what their cover looks like, their podcast, which I'm interested in looking into if they don't take it down. But it's interesting, the words that they use. Jesus, Sex, and Politics with Micah Beckwith and Nathan Paternal. And at first glance, you're like, okay, well, they're giving... they're shedding light on sexual assault and abuse and how pornography is terrible on men and women both and children. And like, okay, but when you learn more and you get into this video, at least to me, it seems more like a projection. Why are they talking so much about this thing when it seems like there's a lot going on there? And I can't personally comment on Micah Beckwith. It is interesting that he's close with Nathan. But as far as Nathan, it seems very strange that he likes to talk about things like that when he has stories like mine coming out about him. But let's see here. Yeah, the two of them are close. Nathan has donated to Beckwith, his campaign committee in March 2024. Neither of them have commented. Let's go here. Let's read about the arrest. A probable cause affidavit reviewed by the Indiana Citizen provides further detail about the investigation. On September 10, 2025, detectives with the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force served a search warrant at the Paternal residence on State Road 132 in Pendleton. According to the affidavit, both Nathan and Jonathan Paternal answered the door when officers arrived. I find this next part interesting, and I'll tell you why. After Jonathan was read his Miranda rights, investigators noted that he identified himself as a member of the Indiana National Guard who works as a Black Hawk helicopter mechanic in Shelbyville, and confirmed his phone number matched the cyber tip report. I wonder why that was brought up. Like, did he have his National Guard ID on him? Or, like, what compelled him to bring that up? Did he think that was going to be a get-out-of-jail-free card, or I'm a person of importance? I don't know. I'm just curious why he brought that up. If there is body cam footage on this, I'd really like to see it, because I'm curious about how this conversation went. When he was told he was under investigation for child exploitation and possession of child sexual abuse material, Jonathan requested to speak with an attorney. The detective seized multiple laptops, iPads, tablets, cell phones, and storage devices from the home for forensic processing. In reviewing the data, investigators reported finding more than 200 files of suspected child sexual abuse material, including what they described as sadomasochistic child abuse and photorealistic AI-generated photos of nude pregnant toddlers. The affidavit also states more than Yeah, this is another part that I find very interesting, considering the things that I know about Pastor Nathan and the things that he's talked about in his sermons. But it says the affidavit also states that more than 50 photos and videos were located on Paternal's phone, Jonathan Paternal's phone, that is, that appeared to show his parents nude or engaged in sex acts. Why did this 24-year-old have this many photos and videos? Why did they exist? Isn't Pastor Nathan supposed to be a pastor? Of his parents. Why did he have this of his parents? And I'll just tell you a little story here. I have gone to this church a few times. quite a few years ago. And Pastor Nathan likes to talk about his sex life with his wife. He likes to talk about their relations. And one thing I remember him talking about is how everybody believes a stereotype about how your intercourse, your sexual life goes down the drain when you get married, but that him and his wife have a lot of fun and they use toys and he's satisfied and all this and that. He said it in a sermon full of people, his congregation that included children. And there are other people who can testify to that. There are other people who have witnessed it and heard it themselves. It's very odd. And when you consider that with the fact that his son had nude videos of him and his wife, it makes you wonder what was going on in that house with all of them. This is serious stuff, and it needs to be talked about. This next part I do want to highlight as well, because I want to point out about how evil this Jonathan Paternal is. According to court documents and a police release, the investigators also discovered chat logs suggesting Paternal was distributing explicit material in a Snapchat group called Diddy Disciples. The group references rapper and music producer Sean Diddy Combs, who faced multiple civil lawsuits and federal investigations alleging sexual assault and trafficking earlier this year. So making light of the Diddy situation, making light of victims. These are people who are trading sexually explicit photos and videos of children. It's disgusting. So that's all I'm going to touch on as far as the article. And I'm going to go into my personal experience with Pastor Nathan. And I'm going to show you the letter that I wrote to the head of the church. And it's about time that this gets brought up, because I don't want to not say anything when I've tried to say something before. And it needs to be talked about. All right, so I guess I'll just share with you my experience with Life Church. I went to the one in Fishers, Indiana, briefly, a handful of times before this incident. I did notice a few weird things. It had a general Protestant vibe to it, and yeah. Anyways, I did notice a few things, like how I mentioned earlier, Pastor Nathan would talk about his sex life with his wife. I wasn't a big fan of this church at all. There was people that were in my life at the time that went, and I noticed those things, and I was like, okay, that's kind of weird. But it was just really the atmosphere that I had noticed, and then the one thing that he said in that sermon, and then other things that I have heard about him. And I didn't really think much of it. Well, about a year later or so, and the only reason why I'm mentioning this is because you will see reference to this in the letter that I'm going to show you, and because it just has to do with the story. So I was 17 and pregnant, and I was looking to be married, fell pregnant, and my partner was 19 years old, so we were very, very young, and we were trying to find a venue, trying to find different things, and we were urged to go to Life Church to get married. We were urged to go there because it'd be more affordable, and because it's a church, and yada, yada, yada. We did not end up getting married there, but it's important to note that, because like I said, it's talked about in the letter that I wrote. And as you can see, Pastor Nathan is here on the website. I don't like calling him a pastor, but it is what it is. Basically, I went there to, we sent in an inquiry about getting married there, and they told us that it would be however many weeks, whatever. And so we had our initial meeting with Pastor Nathan. And it was generally okay. And then he told us that kind of like a briefing of what our classes would be. And he did mention that there'd be a class that touched on sex. But in my mind, I'm mentally prepared for it. I thought, okay, yeah, I can have a mature conversation about that, and it's probably going to be about what the Bible says about it and things like that, and what it really means, how sacred it is, and all that. So I was prepared, and we were told our first session would be about trust, and so I think it was about a week after we initially met with him, because there were going to be weekly meetings. We show up, and basically it starts off like just a little bit strange because everybody else is gone. Everyone's gone in the church. They kind of have like this side office building that has like a kitchen in it and like a little conference room or whatever. And then the pastors have their little offices within this building. Well, it was me, my partner, and Pastor Nathan just alone in this building in his office with the door closed, which is very strange, mind you, because we're the only ones there. And he just starts bringing up sex, and he brings up all of these really disgusting questions. And you can see that in my letter. But it was very disturbing, very uncomfortable. And I will say that in the moment, it did not sit with me and 100% come to my mind just how messed up what he was doing was. And I knew it was uncomfortable. I knew that I felt weird about it. I knew that I wasn't okay with it, but I was also an underage person, an underage girl. I was 17. And it was a little bit harder to stand up for myself in situations like that. And yeah, so my partner, he was also very, very young, and he had dealt with this church before and actually had his own opinions about it. But like I said, we were urged to go here to get married, and we were both in very uncomfortable positions. And I wish I could have stood up for us. I wish I could have said more. I think the other party does as well. But it's okay. Like, Pastor Nathan should not have been doing that. At the end of the day, he should not have been doing that. And it makes you wonder why he was asking young people, especially an underage girl, these questions. It's disgusting. So he asks us these questions, and I remember it like it was yesterday, about, I don't even want to say it all, but it's in the letter, and I will read that here in just a minute. But he asks us about nothing that I thought the normal, like, biblical sex talk would be about. He asked us about toys, and if we watched pornography, and what we had to do to achieve certain things. It was really disgusting. I'm going to lay that all out in the letter, but I do remember vividly at one point that he asked my partner a question. My partner didn't want to answer, and he just sat there. You could tell he was red-faced. He was red-faced and uncomfortable. And Pastor Nathan told him to be a man, repeatedly told him to be a man and answer the question. And and so I think, I think that it didn't settle in for us until we were walking home just how demented it was, what he was asking us. So we decided not to go back. And that we were not going to be getting married there, and that we were not going to participate in those classes. And I remember we walked home after that, and it was just kind of like, did that really just happen? Well, we reached out. We decided over time, and we were ready to talk about it, and we reached out, because that happened in the winter of like 2015 to 2016. We decided to reach out about 2017. I had a lot going on at that time in my life. So we decided to reach out and email in 2017 and try to get some answers, to try to tell someone what happened and what their pastor is doing. We had reached out to another young couple that we knew had gotten married there, and they did say that there was some weird behavior from Pastor Nathan, but you could tell that they weren't quite ready to talk about it. And so my whole point was I just don't want it to happen to any other people, but I wasn't going to force anybody to like talk about something they didn't want to talk about. It was just interesting to note that other people had a similar experience. So what it came down to was I wrote this letter to the head of the church. I did my research, found out who it was and where I needed to send the letter to. I wrote out this letter and sent it. It was handwritten, probably not the best written letter, but I wrote it out and sent it. And then we emailed. I'm the one who wrote it, but I wrote it as in my like partner's perspective. But we emailed as well his colleagues and the other pastors at that location, and I believe the woman who signed us up for classes. Like we talked to maybe 3 or 4 different people and let them know what we had went through, and nobody did anything. Nobody really cared. Nobody responded in a way that was, getting anywhere. I don't think they cared at all. I think if they did, they wanted to save face, and they cared more about their selves and their position than they did about what this pastor is doing to other people. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and read the letter, and it'll really give some insight onto what it was that we went through. And here you can see the letter dated 8/13/2017. And I actually took pictures of this and sent it to myself. And you can see that in my email. So I'm actually going to pull that up here. So that it's validated. But it says Life Church, August 14th, 2017. That's when I sent this to myself. And I believe it was written on the 13th of August of 2015. Let it load here. Yep. So I took pictures and sent it to myself. And so it is backdated. Like I said, not the best written letter, but let's see. To Life Church, we are writing you this letter in regards to some pain that one of your pastors has brought us. In the winter of 2015-2016, we were planning our wedding for the spring. We decided to go with Life Church as a nice and cheap option. We agreed to the premarital counseling that Life Church requires. Our first session was simple and completely fine with Pastor Nathan. He led our next session, which took a very strange and inappropriate turn. This was a session where we would be talking about trust. Our session had ended when he told us not to leave, and that he had a few more questions for us. He started asking about our sex life. His first question was to my 17-year-old fiancée at the time. He's referencing me, but I'm the one who physically wrote this. He asked her, "Did you orgasm?" Us being frightened, shocked, and young, proceeded to answer the question. He also asked us if her blank had to be touched in order to orgasm. He then asked me, blank, if I had to use blank or blank to satisfy my wife. I hesitated to answer, and Pastor Nathan aggressively told me to be a man and answer the question. He said this a few times before I answered. Pastor Nathan went on to ask more sexually explicit topics. He asked us if we had participated in the following: oral, anal, watching pornography, or if we had used sex toys. The session ended. On our walk home, we decided to not return. Writing this out is disturbing, and I am sure it is difficult to read. The past year, we have thought about this several times. We want to shed light on what kind of person you have leading your worship. We think that he asked us these perverted and obscene questions due to the fact that we were young and we were pregnant. Therefore, he knew we had intercourse. My wife was a minor at the time as well. We strongly believe that if this was a 30-year-old couple, this would not have occurred. And the reason why we thought that is because we were so young, and we thought that somebody more established, somebody a bit more mature, and people that maybe could stand up for themselves a little bit more would not have been met with the same. And it's possible that he would want to. It's possible that he has. But we just believe that it's unlikely. It's more likely that he did this to us because we were so young and vulnerable. But anyways, to continue, it has taken up some time for us to speak up. We decided that we needed to shed light on this just in case someone else is going through the same or worse. If you have any more questions about this matter, feel free to contact us. Then we left our name and phone number. So on both pages, there is identifying information. So I'm kind of cutting that off, but you can see here what we went through and how disturbing it is, and that we tried to reach out and nothing was done about this.
If you wonder whether or not God cares, you go, I don't know if God cares. Well, just stop and think about this.
He was mad at Moses.
What happened to Moses?
He didn't get to go to the promised land.
Over striking a rock.
And what's the picture? So he told Moses, he said, Moses, the people need water. Speak to the rock.
Yeah.
Moses got pissed.
Well, let's, yeah.
I can't say that.
He gets,
Can I say that?
No.
We give it Jesus.
It's highly likely that you may be offended.
That's right. You know. But we're not trying to offend you, so no offense.
Unless truth offends you.
Unless truth offends you.
And then, in which case, we will pray for you.
And when someone said skinny jean prophets, I don't wear skinny jeans.
Neither do I. I
have skinny legs.
Doing the Blessed Life series back in 2017, we have done something called the 90-day challenge. We want you to step out in faith. Always, as your pastors, we're going to be challenging you to take that next step of faith. And so we want to get you to test God, that you're loud. I look around this room and I know some of you have told me your testimony about how God has changed your life through this message or one like it, and maybe you've been doing this for your life long. Some of you, you've never heard this before. I never heard it. I said this last week, but I'll say it again. God corrected my heart that I had actually been hurting the people of Life Church because I didn't talk about tithing. I've got some friends that they attend this church and they're well off. I mean, well off. And I see them, and they when they talk to me about this, because there's a lot of people they don't want you to talk about this stuff. But these wealthy people come to me and they say, "You keep telling the people the truth." I mean, tell them to do this. In fact, they rebuke me that I don't talk about this stuff enough. And so I just want to tell you, they're saying, tell them and keep telling them.